God bless you. Welcome to another Growing in Grace podcast where we're growing in grace and knowledge and faith and recognizing the goodness of God in the life that we're living in this present world. We sometimes have trials and tribulations in this life, and sometimes our living situation is not as pleasant as we desire for it to be at times. Sometimes we have economic situation that can bring us to a position that we is not favorable to us. And so today I have a special guest that can speak to how to have faith in the midst of homelessness. We have our friend and our guest who's guested with us before, Sister Donna Green.
Right.
And she has a myriad of experiences.
Right.
And I see you wearing that glory. Where that this glory is just coming down on your hair, and
Yes,
that
yes.
gray where you
That's
all that
it.
experience
All of
and
that.
knowledge and wisdom,
Yeah.
and some of that comes from the life that you've lived,
Mm-hmm.
and the wisdom that you've gained from uh, the life that you lived. And part of
Definitely.
that is you've experienced homelessness.
Oh yeah.
You've
Mm-hmm.
experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some of our audience that they don't know anything about what that's like.
Oh wow.
But the conversation is not just homelessness, but faith in the midst of homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes people can have a trial or tribulation, a bad situation, and they just lose all hope, all
Yeah.
faith.
Yeah.
They just don't stop believing.
Right.
They don't believe anymore,
Right.
and because of the circumstance. But
Yeah.
you are one of the special ones.
Ah.
You're one of the special ones. So tell us a little bit about your journey in having faith in the midst of homelessness.
Well, when I went homeless, I didn't see it coming. But what happened was I was working and the kids were with me. They were grown,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a like a conglomerate of things start happening. They changed my hours at work to nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sleeping in the daytime, and I was working at night. The children was at home. They had, they was being disrespectful. They were grown and doing with it, and it was just stuff started happening. And so what happened was I became my mental went to the left a little bit,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt it. I felt like something was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't pinpoint it. But so when I walked off the job, I walked off the job because they were leaving me at work by myself with 15 and 20 children
Mm-hmm.
at a time, and then they put me on night shift without my permission. They
Mm-hmm.
just did it and told me that. So I walked off the job. I couldn't handle it no more.
Where were you? Were you in Georgia or Chattanooga, Tennessee?
Chattanooga.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So when I walked off the job. I wouldn't suggest nobody to do that,
Uh-huh.
but I did that. I wasn't sleeping in the daytime, and then
Uh-huh.
I was up all night, and that had been going on for days. And then dealing with the kids at home, and then I had two more children staying with me. Their parents had put them out, and I was dealing with their issues. I was also still dealing with national missing children and dealing with parents that had children missing. So I was still doing a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I paid the rent for a couple of months, 2, 3 months or whatever. And then when it came to the time that the rent wasn't being paid anymore, I had emptied my account and everything. And the children they were all working. But what happened was when I lost my job, the place three of them was working closed down
Mm-hmm.
for renovation, and something else happened with the other. So all of us at that house at that time ended up without a job. And it was like, okay, I didn't even try. I didn't. I just say, okay, everybody need to figure their own stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
Mama can't help nobody. You need to figure your stuff out because I was feeling like, okay, well, we had a deal. We had a commitment. Been talking about it since we was kids. When y'all was kids. When you graduated, you was going here. You was going here. You was going here. Everybody chose to do how they wanted to do it. So now all of a sudden, we in this situation. You got to figure your stuff out. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that transpired. We end up moving out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found myself homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, sleeping in my van. Which in a way, it kind of worked for me. I mean, I owned the van, cheap rent. I didn't have to pay no rent. My
Uh-huh.
van, my seats let down in the back
Uh-huh.
to the floor. I
Uh-huh.
had Netflix on my phone.
Okay.
So
You had it
but
figured out.
I had to figure it out to the degree of what, because I was broke.
Mm-hmm.
I was mentally challenged.
Uh-huh.
And then so I couldn't, my kids that I could have came down here, I couldn't. My mental wouldn't let me stay with nobody. It's like I had to work some things out.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So what happened was I had been doing for so many other people, but I wasn't checking in with me.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't checking in to make sure that I was okay. I was dealing with this and that and that and that, and I wasn't checking in with me. So, but I knew that I was going to be okay. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like that. I trusted that God was going to bless me to be okay. But it was a shift. So it was like a whole lot of stuff going on, but it was time for me to make a turn.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a shift, but I had to go through that process for that shift. And I remember the first night I was out there, it had got dark, and I don't have a key to my no house nowhere. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just out there in the elements like everybody else. And then I figure out I gotta use the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm looking around at all these buildings like, oh, now which building I'm gonna get in to go to the bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
Hungry, didn't have no money. And then I began. It took like 4 or 5 days for it to set in. You are actually homeless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, still going to church,
Mm-hmm.
still doing everything that I was doing, but I was homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember one night. It was when God really showed up to let me know, because I wasn't scared.
Mm-hmm.
I was what's the word for it? I didn't like the position I was in, but I knew I was gonna learn something in this position. I knew
Mm-hmm.
I
Like
was.
he was there for a reason.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh-huh.
who wants to be homeless?
Uh-huh.
But since I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
I know that it's not for nothing, because things don't happen for nothing. I'm not saying that it was God put me in that position, but I knew that because by me being in that position, He was going to teach me some things through that process of that position.
Right.
So I remember going to after a few days, I was hungry one night, and I was like, and this is how God showed me, I'm with you. I got you. I was hungry one night, and I just looked up. I was like, Lord, I'm hungry. And it came to my spirit, go over to this place. And I was like, I'm not going there. But I ended up going there. When I went in, I just sat down. And this lady that I don't know just came and sat down and started talking to me. And she was telling me all her woes, and she was the manager of that place. And I didn't tell her my situation. She had nothing, because I was just listening to what was going on with her. She was telling me
Mm-hmm.
about her daughter, all her stuff. And then when I was like, "Oh, I'm hungry," and she was like, "Oh, no, 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 sit there. I got you. Whatever you want, whatever you want. I'll get." And she just waited on me. And God, to me, God was saying, "I got you. You're gonna be okay."
Mm-hmm.
And so I dealt with that, and then it was kind of, because at the time that I was homeless, I was teaching anger management in the homeless men's shelter,
Mm-hmm.
and I was teaching coping skills to room in the inn for the women.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a beat on that either. I
Uh-huh.
showed up when I supposed to showed up and did what I supposed to have did.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going back to my car, back to my situation. Now when I'm in the car at night, at first night I'm like, well, where am I gonna stay? Well, of course I'm gonna stay in Walmart parking lot. And a lot of those cars you see back there in back away from the door,
Uh-huh.
some of them cars, people staying there, they sleeping in those cars.
Uh-huh.
It was cold. It was in February, and I remember the coldest night of the year. It was cold, like ice on the ground, cold. And I had no gas in the car. I had no money. And I remember waking up because I had to go in Walmart to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got back in the car and I started the car, it wasn't no heat. And I was so cold, and I'm like, Lord, I'm cold. I need to go put some water, something in the car so I can get some heat. But I didn't have no money. And in my spirit, it said, go to this particular gas station. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to that gas station. I'm going to go to another gas station I'm familiar with. But when I was driving past that gas station, it's just my car just pulled in there.
Uh-huh.
And there was two guys standing out, a white guy and a black guy. It was about 3 in the morning, the eyes all shot red, just. And when I got out, I popped the trunk. It was raining and it was cold. And the guy was like, hey, baby, you need something? And I was like, no, I just need some water, some fluid to put in my car. And he told the guy, he was like, go in there and get us some fluid. And he walked around and looked at my gas hand. And he was like, baby, you need some gas? And he just pulled some money out of his pocket and gave it to the guy. And he put some gas in my car. And when I got back in the car was warm and toasty. And the guy walked up to me. He was like, look, don't be out here like that this time of night. It's dangerous out here this time of night. Don't be out here without no gas or nothing like that, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay. And to me, that was just God saying, I got you,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then when I left there, I went across to I said, well, where I'm going to go to sleep at now. And then I went across to the Waffle House.
Mm-hmm.
People was all in there, so I felt safe there. It was about 4, 5 o'clock then. And I remember dozing off. And when I woke up, it was daytime.
Mm-hmm.
And when I woke up and I was like, I'm hungry. And right then, I kid you not, the phone rang and it was a friend of mine. She called herself my daughter. And she was like, hey, mama, where you at? And I said, oh, I'm in Hickson. You know, she said, you want to go to breakfast? My treat. I was like, okay.
Sure. Sure, I'm available.
Right. Right.
I'm available.
Right.
I
So,
can make it happen.
exactly. So it's like he was always taking care of me.
Yeah.
So when it came time for me to bathe and all that, it's
Mm-hmm.
just God told me, said, go to downtown, go downtown to the YMCA, ask for the manager.
Uh-huh.
Something that I wouldn't have thought of doing.
Right.
But I went down there and I asked for the manager and I told her, I said, hey, look, I'm homeless and I need to be able to come in and back. And she just gave me a voucher. She's like, just come in and out at random. You know, you can work out, do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was taken care of
So
too.
that's where the YMCA come in at.
Yeah,
Ah.
yeah, that's where the YMCA come in at. But she asked me, she said, well, what do you do? You know, and I told her what I did while I was homeless. She had me come and speak to her staff
Uh-huh.
about things, you know. So I was still doing what I was doing,
Uh-huh.
but I knew because in the car at night, God would. It was just like all of that stuff: the rape, the molestation, my son missing, Raymond died. It was like everything. It was just compiled,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all in my head, and it was just running.
Mm-hmm.
It was just running like just like that. It was
Mm-hmm.
just running, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so what I realized was that I wasn't while I was seeing about everybody else. I never took care of some of those things that need to be taken care of for me.
So in that time, it almost sounds like God slowed you down
Yeah,
and actually put you in a place where you could actually begin to pay attention to some things
Yeah,
and to
exactly,
hear some things and to
exactly.
acknowledge some things.
Right.
Whereas at other times, you just had enough noise going on around you to where you didn't really have to think
I didn't
about
have to
those things.
deal with any of
Yes.
those things, you
Uh-huh.
know. But then when that happened and I had to just really hone in on me, it was scary to see the things that I was looking at. You
Yeah.
know,
Uh-huh.
I couldn't figure out how to get past that point in my life.
Yeah.
So I had to do something that I've always done, but at this particular time, it was just me and God. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
trust nobody else, and I couldn't let nobody see how my mental status was. When I
Uh-huh.
showed up in church, I showed up
Uh-huh.
with a smile and
Yeah.
did that and got on out of there. You know, I remember one time I came to church and Keegan had came to the hotel I was at.
Uh-huh.
Keegan showed up at the hotel and some kind of way him and the manager got into it,
Mm-hmm.
had words. And it was on a Sunday morning. I'm getting ready for church, and next thing I know, it's like 7 police officers outside. They putting
Okay.
us out the hotel. You know,
Uh-huh.
I'm coming out the hotel, no shoes on. You know,
Uh-huh.
just coming out the hotel with my stuff, cause Keegan, being Keegan.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember leaving there, just getting my stuff together in the car, and going on to church.
Mm-hmm.
Just coming on to church with a smile. So I couldn't let nobody see how so close to the edge that I was. I
Right.
couldn't. But then at the same time, I wasn't scared of being on the edge because I knew that this was going to be valuable to me, and God was going to teach me some things and relieve me of some things as well.
I
You
see.
know,
Uh-huh.
I knew that. I don't know how I knew that,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like God kept telling me, "You're gonna be all right. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be all right. You got to go through this, but I'm gonna be right here." But so I had to deal with that. And so I was homeless for like maybe 6 months, 6 to 8 months, off and on homeless,
You know, there's
because I would
some.
get a hotel and then I would get back in my car, get a
Uh,
hotel, like that.
yeah, you know, it's something you telling me that now because I didn't know that
Yeah,
like that.
right,
I didn't know that like that. So
right,
you was coming to church where I was
yeah,
pastoring,
right.
but I didn't know that like
Because it it was a pride thing too. I'm here. I am. This was 5 years ago, 5 6 years ago. You know, maybe 7. But here I am at this age. I'm homeless. Okay, why am I homeless at this age? Why don't I have in at this age? So for me, so who am I gonna tell that to? Because everybody that I knew was solid in their stuff. You
I
know what
see.
I'm saying?
I see. So you didn't want nobody to know that you actually needed that type of help.
I didn't want nobody to know I needed that type of help, and then I didn't want nobody to know that I was, because I knew if I told my family or my church family, somebody was going to come to my aid. I felt like that,
Uh huh.
but at the same time, I still had my mental stuff to deal with that I didn't need nobody to see that.
I see.
You know what I'm
Uh
saying?
huh.
I didn't need anybody to see that. So for me, I just I had to deal with that. If that wasn't in place, I may have went another route. But I knew that that was in place, and I knew that there was some things that I had to deal with mentally that and it just kept coming up. It just kept popping up, kept popping up, kept popping up.
You know, I think that was around the time where you was in service, and I had to keep working with Proverbs 3 and 5. You remember? It says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine
Yeah.
heart, and
Yeah.
lean not to thine own understanding. In
Exactly.
all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct our path."
Exactly. And he did. I remember, but I had some. I remember going to the homeless. I finally went to the homeless coalition,
Hmm.
and when it was so bad down there. I literally like stepped over somebody that just laying on the sidewalk sleep.
Hmm.
I've seen the mothers cussing their children out, children walking behind them crying, mothers frustrated and all that. And I saw all that,
Hmm.
and I saw the how they were, because they couldn't get no help. And
Hmm.
then when I went in there and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not like these people. I'm
Hmm.
better than that.
Hmm.
You know. And so I sat by myself and try to look around to make sure didn't nobody. And it was funny because one of the guys that used to come to the church was in there.
Uh huh.
He was like, "Hey, Sister Green," you know.
Hey, so how you doing?
Right,
What's up?
right, right. He automatically came up and talked to me. I'm like,
I
oh
know
man.
you. Don't I know you from somewhere?
Right. So so I'm in there and I'm telling the lady, I'm talking to the lady, my case manager, about what's going on with me.
Hmm.
But I was just another number like everybody else.
Uh,
It wasn't anything special about me. In my head, I'm not like them. But
yeah.
that was the first day. By the third day, I'm walking in there loud like everybody else. I need to see my case manager. Tell her to come out here.
Uh-huh.
I learned to adapt to
Yeah.
where I was.
Yeah.
You
Uh-huh.
know, but it was something because I was down there and you seen all them brand new cars,
Hmm.
people living in their cars.
Uh-huh.
Just and I remember sitting next to a guy that was an accountant. He was a
Yes.
white guy, and he was telling me what he did. And I said, "How did you get in the position of being homeless?" And he was like, "How did you get in the position of being homeless?"
Hmm.
Things happen.
Reality is that really a lot of people are just a few checks away.
Exactly.
Really.
And yeah,
Yeah, and people look well,
yeah,
and there's a facade of wellness.
it is.
But when you start looking at the reality of bank accounts versus mortgages and all the other bills, sometimes it don't look good.
It don't.
It don't look good.
And then you can't, because I talked to so many people in so many different positions,
Hmm.
very, very intelligent people.
Yes.
They sitting down there like me.
Hmm.
They don't have anything. They leaving their nice cars that they trying to hold on to, still trying to pay the note on that,
Yeah.
but they homeless,
Hmm.
And so and I've always taught my kids not to judge, not by looks, not by what people have, not by any of that stuff. Don't judge. But in that position, just being down there with them, and then it was kind of embarrassing in a sense too, because I remember she told me to go over to this place, go over to the across the street, and give them a card,
Hmm.
and they'll give me a room or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
When I went over there, I ran into one of my students that I was teaching. One of the guys, he was like, "Hey, Miss Donna, so and so and so. This Miss Donna. Miss Donna here," but they thought I was there doing social work.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So instead of me
Like you
saying,
there to help somebody else.
yeah, that's what they
Uh-huh.
was thinking. And
Uh-huh.
so he's like, Madonna, what you doing in here? Blah, 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 blah. And I just went to looking like that. And I'm like, oh, I don't see him. All right, good to see you. And walked on back out. Like I was going in there to see somebody,
Right, right, right.
because I was too embarrassed to say I'm homeless, cause I got to go back and teach them next week,
Right, right, right.
so and then they sent me somewhere to get a place, a little small room apartment place. And so when I went in there, the lady treated me so bad that I was like, you can't treat people like that in this position because it's us to give you that job. You cannot talk to me like that or treat me like this because I'm in this position. That's wrong. Not just for me. I may not get it, but for the next person to come in here that's already down on their luck, you don't get to talk to them like that because of your position. You don't get to do that, And I left out. So that left me back in my van again, and I'm thinking, kind of need
But
to
you told her
chill,
right though, didn't you? You told her
It
something,
helped me
didn't
none,
you? You was helping the next guy,
right?
the next woman, the next man.
So when I got back in there, I'm like, man, that lady ain't gonna give you nothing. Now. You mess that up. Go back in that van and get your cover, cause you ain't finna get no place tonight. I didn't. So it just every time I looked up, but God was taking care of me. And I told the Lord one day, I looked at my legs and I was like, God, I need to lay down because my legs are swelling up. That same day, my granddaughter called me and she was like, Mama, Mama. And she was so happy. I was like, hey, what's good? She's like, you must have been praying for me. I said, I pray for all y'all. She said, Mom, you must have been praying for me. Check your account. And I checked my cash app and she had sent me like $200, $300, something. I said, where did this come from? She said, I got hold to some money. I got a check. Mom, you must be praying for me. And she didn't know my situation. You
Uh-huh.
see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So I took that and I went to the hotel, and so God just constantly took care of me. So while I was out there, I learned a lot. I saw a lot. I met a lot of people that was really, really, they wasn't homeless because of mishap. They wasn't homeless because of the things that they do. Life happened to them as if it happened to all of us, and they found themselves homeless. And then you see these little children, you know, it was heartbreaking because for me, I had a home. I could go stay in my van, but for them, they couldn't do that. They had to, and so you go in the shelter and they're stealing from you. And I've done all that. You see, I've done that too. I've had to stay in the shelter because I remember when I was like 14 or 15, my mom kicked me out, and I had to go stay in the shelter. And it was there was a whole new experience there too. So just being able to look at people, I guess God bless me. I'm in a lot of different situations because I've experienced a lot of different things in life, but it helped me to have compassion and sympathy and empathy for people because I've been in a lot of situations where I didn't get it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? I didn't get that. Now, when I was homeless, I needed some sympathy. I needed somebody to come and say, look, you're going to be all right. I could have gotten that had I let that down enough to show somebody this is where I
you
really am.
were.
But I was
Yeah.
too messy.
Uh-huh.
In my thought process, I was too messy to show somebody because when you saw me, what you saw was what I wanted you to see.
Uh-huh. That was
You
your
know,
facade.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what that was, but it worked for me. It was it was what I wanted you to see because I didn't trust enough to say, "Hey, look, I'm in a bad place right now, mentally." Because I know if the mental was taken care of, all that other stuff would come.
Which that's another
Yeah.
component. Sometimes we think about people homeless just because they don't have money.
Yeah.
But actually, sometimes it's not the money; it's the mental state.
Right.
I've actually started doing some ministry at Gateway on Prior Street in
Right.
Atlanta, where people are actually in the process of coming from homelessness to housing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the gateway, this
Right.
gateway from homelessness
Yeah, I know
to
about
housing.
Gateway. Yeah.
And we actually had a person who we've got some that start coming to the church, some got baptized, and some have had to move to different places
Mm-hmm.
to because it's actually unstable
Right.
situation
It is.
sometimes. But there's this one person particularly that was began to come here, but they was having a mental situation, and actually got housing, got a place to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the mental state that they was in, said,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to stay
Mm-hmm.
here. I want to go back to my place on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And they went back to the street.
Yeah. Well.
It wasn't that the housing wasn't
Mm.
available, it wasn't that the housing was nice and everything, but the person's mind didn't allow them to stay in that place.
And I met a lot of those
Mm.
out there. They want to be out there. They want to be out there in the cold.
Yes.
They want to be out there in the rain because they couldn't. But see, before I experienced what I experienced,
Hmm.
I could not understand why they won't come in out the rain,
Hmm.
you know. But then when I experienced that, sometimes you got to get to yourself to work on yourself. And
Hmm.
sometimes you just know what, at that particular time, for me, I had to get to myself to work on myself.
Hmm.
You helping me wouldn't have helped me
Yeah.
because you helping me, it would have put me back. I would have pushed back the mental to go to the where you wanted me to go to get what I needed to get. That wasn't what I needed.
Hmm.
What I needed was to work on that molestation, that
Hmm.
rape, all those things that happened to me at childhood. Because see, what we do is we absorb that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
absorb, and then not only that, when you're dealing with other people, sometimes you absorb their stuff too.
Hmm.
And if you don't have an outlet for that stuff or don't know how to get that stuff off you,
Hmm.
you know, by even by you being a pastor,
Hmm.
you hear a lot, you deal with a lot, you absorb that stuff.
Hmm.
And if you don't know how to get that off you, if you don't know how to um, manage yourself,
Hmm.
so that stuff won't walk because then you. Why my back hurting and the doctor can't find out? Why
Hmm.
this going
And
on? Why
carrying
that's
somebody
going on?
else's stuff.
You can't because and that's so true because see one thing about the body keeps the score.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
It keeps the score.
Hmm.
So for me, it was just time for me to deal with all that. It was
Hmm.
I couldn't run from it no more. I couldn't hide from it no more.
And I hear that. I do have a question though to you, because sometimes you look back and you could see some things that you could have done differently.
Hmm.
Not to say that everything was right or wrong, but then some things you could say, well, I could have done that differently. I could have
Hmm.
done that in a different way. Do you think that it was best for you not to let somebody help you with the mental? And what I'm saying is, you're right in that the root of where you was probably because of your mental got overwhelmed.
Hmm.
You got overwhelmed. But do you think it was the best decision not to allow somebody to help you to process those things in your mind, to help you with your thinking and
Well,
processing
I
things
did
and
have
thinking?
I had a therapist.
Uh-huh.
You
Uh-huh.
know, we talked
Mm-hmm.
and everything, and I would kind of run some stuff by him. He knew,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he knew, and he knew I was gonna be all right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't agree with my method,
Mm-hmm.
but that's never only one right. You know, it's always more than one right way
Mm-hmm.
at times, except for when it comes to the word. But
Uh-huh.
in natural, it's
Mm-hmm.
more than one right way to do it. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
that's just the way I chose because that way it gave me some silence.
Mm-hmm.
It gave me some quiet time.
So,
You know.
so that's what that was. Like you were talking about, you used to talk to me at times about that van,
Yeah.
and see that's gonna find out that van meant a whole lot more to you
It did.
than what I
Right.
ever knew.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it gave me that quiet time because you got the chatter going on in your head.
Uh-huh.
You got the chatter going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to figure some things out. I didn't First of all, I was 55, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and homeless.
Mm-hmm.
That there by itself, no other nothing else, just that right there by
Mm-hmm.
itself
Mm-hmm.
was enough to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Then you put in all of the other things that help make that,
Mm-hmm.
that little snowball came bigger and bigger and bigger.
Uh-huh.
So I've always been the person that I do better when I get to myself and figure it out, just me and God. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
that person.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a lot, but I could get to myself. Now I reach out to who I need to reach out. I call my therapist and I let him know, this is what I am and this is what I'm doing. And he was like, well, Donna, you're gonna do it the way you're gonna do it. So I'm like, yeah, well, he said, I think, and he even said it, he said, I don't want you out there
Yeah.
because I think it's dangerous for you to be out there. I don't want you out there. But I know you and the way you think, I know that that's what's best for you. So you think, and then I'm like, well, so if you were doing it, how would you do it? And he told him, I said, then that's the way you would do it. That ain't the way I would do it. He said, exactly. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand
Mm-hmm.
that. I wasn't dealing with PTSD or none of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff there. We made that clear.
Mm-hmm.
I knew God was taking me to another place. Because when I came out of it, and the way I came out of it is I was going down just riding down the street one day, and it was like God said, okay, let's get you a little more stable now. You're
Mm-hmm.
stable enough now to go back,
Mm-hmm. In
because
the
I had,
mind. That's
yeah, because I
yeah.
had flew to Texas and did some training,
Uh-huh.
come
Uh-huh.
back in my car, up
Uh-huh.
there, come back in my car. But then I met so many people that was homeless, going to work every day, homeless, sleeping in their homeless, and so for me it was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I know enough to know I need to be concerned about me right now and nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the things. It wasn't so much what you thought I should do for me or this person thought I should do for me. For a change, I was going to make some decisions for Donna,
Mm-hmm.
period. Not caring about what nobody else thought, how they felt, or anything. I didn't. I just need to make some, because if I'm gonna come up out of this right here
Mm-hmm.
by the grace of God, then I need to make some hard decisions by me that's gonna move me forward, not just get me past right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna move me forward.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I had to do it.
You mean like more toward the long term
Yeah,
and not just
I
something immediate that's
right
going, yeah.
immediate because I could fix immediate.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? A lot of time, but the long term, how we gonna do that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I had to hear God, and He spoke to me when I was in that van
Mm-hmm.
at night and stuff. He would speak to me. He would talk to me. He would speak to my spirit. He would show me some things and show me, you know, He would show me some things. And so for me, it was like, and in my mindset, I wasn't thinking on things that was good and honorable and all that. Those weren't my
Mm-hmm.
thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was thinking to the left. And I even looked at one of my journals that I wrote. That journal was so dark I couldn't even read it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I didn't know I was in such a dark place.
You still have the journal?
But I got rid of that journal.
I was going to ask you, did you burn it up?
I
Or?
got rid of that journal.
You know,
Yeah, I want to hold on to that
no.
one. But God showed me,
Uh-huh.
but he showed me who he was though.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? He showed me that I was his child, that he cared about me
Mm-hmm.
at a time when I didn't think nobody else did. I thought that you would help me, but
Mm-hmm.
you would help me out of pity and obligation. And I didn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
Not you. I'm just saying the
Well,
average person.
anybody would,
I
yeah.
just wanted to
Maybe.
figure out, why did I get in this shape? How did I get in this shape? What can I do different not to ever see this again? You know how to take care of you, and that, but God gave me that too. He gave me the wisdom. Everything that I did that was right, God gave me that wisdom to
Yeah.
do that, because it wasn't anything that I mess up stuff.
Yeah. Well,
It was God.
and he had to fix some stuff in you.
He had to fix it.
And sometimes to fix something in a person, you have to break things.
Right.
And a
Yeah.
lot of people that might listen to me now probably wouldn't even take that. But
No, no, you're right.
this
Sometimes
reality,
you got to break something to fix it.
especially if it's wrong. Like, say something is wrong or built wrong. In order to fix it, sometimes you got to tear it down
Right.
in order to build it back
In
up
order
right.
to build it back up. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, I use the illustration sometime. There's different ones I could use, but I know, like my nephew, Brandon, he had a boating accident where his leg got messed
I
up,
remember that.
and it was healing, and he had his father and mother had took him to Bishop Jeffries, the pastor, for prayer, and in the prayer, the pastor said in the prayer, make him whole, make him like he's supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be. And as he was healing, he wasn't healing right. And they come to a understanding with the doctor, says, well, his leg actually is not healing right. What do you want to do? We can let it heal like this and go on. It'll never be right. It won't have full functionality of his leg. He can go on like this. Or we can make it right.
Mm-hmm.
What does making it right mean? To make it right means we got to re-break it.
Mm-hmm.
We got to break it
Mm-hmm.
and put it back together
Right.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents like, well, that's not our leg.
Yeah.
That's not
Right.
my pain I'm gonna have to
Right.
go through. So they
Right.
asked the son, say, well, what do you want to do? He said, I want it to be right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I say that because sometimes in our own lives, sometimes if we want things to be right, sometimes in order to get them right, you got to go through something to get
That's
it right.
true. I
And,
agree.
it just won't. It may not be pretty.
It may not be
It may
pretty.
not be pretty, and it sounds like that's what you went through.
Yeah.
You went through some unpretty, uncomfortable situations, but you came out.
I came out because
You came out.
you know, my walk is
Hmm.
not your walk, but I had to take. In your walk ain't my walk.
Yeah.
Mean our struggles, our crosses aren't the same,
Yes.
but we still got to bear our cross.
True.
You know, and so I had to take the word,
Hmm.
and apply that to everything that was going on. I was like, well, Lord, I don't have this, I don't have that, and then I looked at the word where it said, if you honor me, if you what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to. Well, it's in Colossians, but it's talking about how if we seek those things.
Seek those
That's
things
not
which are
Colossians.
above.
That's not Colossians. I don't think it is. But anyway, seek those things with that up that above.
Yeah.
And
Or are you talking about seek ye first,
no, seek those things that
which are
above. Set
above?
your affections on
Set your
things.
affections on
And
things
so I
above.
did
Okay.
that.
Yes.
I did that. I started setting my affections. I started doing everything that I wasn't doing,
Uh-huh.
that I thought I was doing, but I was actually too busy to do because my
Yes.
mind was always other things. So now that he's moved everything off from around me, now I could set my affections on things above and knew what that looked like. Now
Yes.
I could speak the right words and say the right words, and I walked. I knew God was going to take care. That was the amazing thing about the homeless experience. My homeless experience wasn't a woe is me,
Uh-huh.
poor me experience. It may have looked like that to other people, but it wasn't for me. My homeless experience for me is I just got to know God in a real way. I
Yeah.
just got to know him in a real way because he was always there and he was always doing and taking care and providing for me. But when I became homeless and by myself,
You had to lean on him more.
I didn't have anybody else to lean on.
Yes.
And
Uh-huh.
he took care of me.
Mm-hmm.
He took care of me. And I remember it was like I was going down the street one night just trying to find somewhere I was going where I wanted to be that night to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And I passed by this hotel and it said now hiring that's extended stay. It said hire. I never did that kind of work before. But when I passed by, some said go back up there, go back up there. They was already closed, and I was like, I'm not going back up there. But of course, I went back. I don't know
Well,
why I
you
did
just be
that.
trying to be
I know.
hard headed. Didn't want to go to the
I
gas
know.
station. Didn't want to go. Lord have mercy.
And so I went and I knocked on the door. And the white lady came to the door and she was like, we're closed. And I was like, I know, but I want to know, are y'all still hiring? She was like, yes, ma'am, come back tomorrow. And so I stood there and she kind of knock back again. And she said, man, we're closed. And I was like, right, but I want an application. And then she kind of breathed and just told me to come on in and lock the door back because she was
Hmm.
dealing with money or whatever. And then when she gave me the application, I said, she said, well, you can bring it back tomorrow. I said, can I fill it out here now? And she was like, man, I'm trying to get out of here. I said, I know. And then she was like, just go ahead. So I asked for an ink pen.
Hmm.
Then I said, can I use your charger? She said, you want to use my charger? I said, yeah, because I got to get a number off the charger. I don't know it by heart. But if you let me use your charger because my phone did, I can pull it up. She gave me the charge and we started talking.
Hmm.
And I said, look, I need this job. I'm homeless. And she started laughing.
Hmm.
And I said, so I started laughing too. So I said, why we laughing?
Uh-huh.
And she said, I was just homeless 8 months ago. Well, to me, she said, me and my husband was just homeless 8 months ago. I just lit up. I'm like, where did you sleep? What's the best place to sleep? And
Uh-huh.
she was telling me where to go and everything. And about 3 days later, she called me. She was like, you got the job. Can you start tomorrow? I was like, well, I can't start tomorrow. She said, well, can you start Tuesday? I was like, can I start Wednesday? Because I don't want to just start work right then. I just
Uh-huh.
didn't.
Uh-huh.
So that took me, so now I'm working. I'm not staying there. I'm still working, but I'm going back and sleep in my car.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working. And then when I get paid, I will go to a hotel a couple of days. Then I will go back to sleep in my car.
Mm-hmm.
But God was bringing me up slowly, but
Mm-hmm.
I even in that I was still recognizing who He was
Mm-hmm.
and how He's changing things for me. Because now I'm in a place and I don't have no kids.
Mm-hmm.
That was so amazing. I've been having kids since I was 15. I was 55.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't have no kids.
So you had
Oh
40
my
years.
gosh, man, I didn't have
Uh-huh.
no kids.
Uh-huh.
Nobody stayed with me. Wherever I went, I was on my own. I could make decisions and I didn't have to make decisions based on nobody because they had to figure it out. And I told them when they would come where I was, I'm like, y'all got to figure y'all stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard for them
Mm-hmm.
because they was really going through and they were young. But I was trying to show them I was totally aware of what I was doing in that sense. And I constantly told them, when we talked about all this, one was going to the service, one was going here, one was going there. All this was taken care of. Y'all chose to make things differently. Y'all chose to do different. So now y'all got to figure y'all stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Kendall went and got him 2 jobs and got him his place. Keegan went and got him a place. Kayla went to Savannah where my granddaughter was in the service, so she went down there with her, and Kim came to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on my own, and then they would call me and say, because my daughter didn't know I was homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, Mama, where you staying at? Who you with? With a friend? With a friend. I wasn't lying over what a friend we had in Jesus. I wasn't lying.
Yeah.
I had it all worked out.
Yeah.
What I didn't want them to do was come back.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
So I stayed there, and God just continued to
So
bless.
you didn't even tell them.
I didn't want nobody to. First of all, it was
So
embarrassing.
really, you was keeping this secret between you and God for the most part,
Yeah.
except for people who found out haphazardly.
Right, right,
Yes.
right. Yeah, I did because
Yeah.
I was, what are you doing homeless at 55? I couldn't get past that. First of all, and then I had all that mental stuff. So if I'm
Yeah.
coming to your house to stay with you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not coming in I'm coming in with some mental stuff I'm dealing with.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
I couldn't do that. So I had to just stay out. And I remember, because one of the ministers knew, he was like, I think that's just pride. I'm like, that's not pride.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't do it.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't about what people say. I just couldn't make myself go stay with nobody. But I found solace in that van. I
Uh-huh.
found solace in that van, and when God would speak to me at night and all that stuff, and then I seen the little miracles, miracles on miracles on miracles that He was doing for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, just because I was in that position,
Mm-hmm.
God still gave me hope. So I knew when I woke up in the morning, I was going to be okay. And I knew that all that day, whatever I needed, He was going to
He was
supply.
going to
I
provide it.
knew He was going to do
So
it.
you was living off your faith, walking
Man,
by faith, and the
that was,
scripture.
it was such a beautiful thing for me,
Uh-huh.
even though I was homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling one of when I flew up to Washington, I had to go to Washington for a conference or something. And I was telling our counselor up there,
Mm-hmm.
I was just telling him, and he just started laughing, and he was just sitting there bright eyed. He was like, I just never seen anybody that was homeless so excited about it.
Yeah. Yes. All this joy. Where does this joy come from?
I was right. I
Wow.
wasn't, And he was like, "You just one of a kind, Donna Green." But it
Yeah.
wasn't that. I just knew who my father was, and my
Yeah.
father showed me who I was.
Mm-hmm.
That he cared about me.
Right.
I figured it out. He had already told me, but I figured out
Yeah.
that I was his child, and
Yeah.
I was gonna be okay, whatever state
Mm-hmm.
I was in.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna be okay.
Yeah.
So He provided every day. It was just an amazing thing just to
Uh-huh.
see the things that He provided for me.
Yeah. So let me ask you. So somebody else may be dealing with a situation, and they may not come to the position of homelessness, but they're struggling in their minds or financially. And what advice would you give?
I mean, when you struggling, whether it's financially, whether it's mental, spiritual, physical, or whatever, when you're going through, you gotta have something to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta have something to hold on to. You gotta have that hope, and that's in God. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I realized when I was out there homeless that a lot of those people, the reason why they was out there, they had no hope.
Uh-huh.
Some of them that I talked to had no hope. Why would God do this?
Mm-hmm.
Why would God put me in this position? Why would God? I've been praying to God. I've been praying to God. He haven't changed my situation, so I don't want to hear nothing about
So
God.
they got angry with God,
Yeah.
but even in the midst of your situation, you was falling more in love with God.
Cause I didn't have nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have nobody else. I didn't have nothing. I didn't have nobody. And then it was such a beautiful thing. I think a lot of it too was the fact that I didn't have them children no more. I didn't have anybody that I had to see about but me. That was just something new to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't have nobody I had to see about but me.
Mm-hmm.
I had never experienced that before.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't have anybody else. But I would say, you know, you got to find some hope. You got to get that hope. You got to know that even in this, you got to see that even if it's just a pinch of light,
Mm-hmm.
it's light at the end of that tunnel. You
Mm-hmm.
got to believe God that it's going to be okay regardless of how it works out.
Mm-hmm.
It's still going to be okay if he's in it. And
Mm-hmm.
he said he'll never leave us or forsake us. So
Mm-hmm.
we know that he's now sometimes it's hard when you in that dark place.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the dark place,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But even in that dark place, because I didn't contemplate suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I actually went through with committing suicide. God just woke me up and said no. But
Mm-hmm.
I tried to take my life. I wasn't thinking
You didn't
about
just
it.
think about it. You
No, I
tried it.
actually tried to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was young then when I tried to do that. I just felt hopeless and I felt like life was going to be like this for me always. And I didn't want this life. So let me go on to take it. And that's what I did. So I didn't think about suicide, contemplate it. I actually tried to take my life. I know what that dark place looked like when you don't have no hope. I know what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a pretty place on the outside nor on the inside. When you ain't got no hope and it's dark and you just don't see the light,
Mm-hmm.
I know what that looked like. I did not want to wake up. I actually tried to take my life. And when I woke up, it was like God said no. And the only thing I did when I woke up and I breathed and I just went on because I knew, see, I didn't see that it was going to be a better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
nobody could have told me that,
Yeah.
you know? So I know what that looks like. And I didn't know God. So I didn't pray to God. I didn't ask God to change my situation. I didn't know Him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was never taught about God.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was it for me. And I was okay with that being it for me. But thank God,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
began to
that
learn
mercy.
God, and He began to help
I didn't
you.
know God. I didn't
Uh,
know. I didn't. It was when I got almost
well,
grown.
that's what I'm saying. In
Yeah.
in your situation where you came to homelessness, you actually had created a relationship
I
with
had
God,
created a relationship
and
with
and
God.
and actually, from your testimony, it sounds like you're saying that God was actually doing a work in your life through that position that He put you in,
He did.
or that
He
that
did.
you,
He did.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
knew that. I
uh-huh,
knew that something good was gonna come out of this. I
mm-hmm,
just didn't know what.
mm-hmm,
I knew that even though God didn't put me right there,
mm-hmm,
I believed that. But I knew that He was gonna use that for my good, and He
uh-huh,
did that.
yeah, yeah,
He did that. He showed me who He was, and I realized that if I got God, I got everything. So I go around, I say I'm a child of God. That's my father. That's my father. That's just
mm-hmm,
like when your kids hungry and they walk in your house.
mm-hmm,
They in daddy's house. I can go in the refrigerator and get me something. This is my father's house. You know
mm-hmm,
what I'm saying?
right,
So for me, I felt like so now I'm so out of the box in what I do now. I'm
mm-hmm,
so out of the box. I'm not trying to have my own radio show. I'm trying to have my own radio station.
mm-hmm,
You know what I'm
mm-hmm,
saying? I'm working on putting together a million person walk on Washington in 25.
mm-hmm,
You know, I think so out of the box now. Why? Because I know who my father is, and if it happened, if it is him, and if it don't happen, it's okay. But the things that I've learned, making it happen, you know.
So what you're saying to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that experience actually grew your faith.
Yeah.
And so now you can believe things that for some people they say, "That ain't gonna happen, Donna."
Yeah.
And some might say that,
Yeah.
but in your heart, in your mind, you think about where He's brought you from, and if He can bring you through all that other stuff, then He
Yeah.
can help you to do some things that look like it's impossible for other people.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the challenge. So I don't just go for the little bitty things. I go
Mm-hmm.
for things that I know is God. And
Yeah.
I know when I need things, God, I need to go out of town. I said, Lord, I need to go out of town and I can't afford it. I can't afford to go out of town. This is going to be, so much money, but I want to go to this place. Then if you work it out, it was for me to go. All I did was ask people. I raised $2,000 and went. And when I went, I was totally taken care of there. You know what I'm saying? But then that was God. And he's just always. I went to another place, and I didn't have any money when I got there. I think I was in Ohio, maybe Cincinnati. I didn't have no money. I got there. They paid for the plane ticket, but what I read was that we had to be responsible for our own food. I went there with $8 in my pocket, and them $8 was gonna last me for 4 days. 4 days. So I bought me something to eat, and it came up to like $7.53.
Come on, the first meal. Okay. Okay.
The first meal.
So you didn't just like get a pack of peanuts and water. Yeah, okay.
Now
Okay.
I want this meal.
Okay.
So I got the meal and I ate it.
Okay.
And I didn't
You ate
want
the whole
it.
thing?
No. What I did was I ate it and then I didn't want it anymore. So I threw it in the garbage.
Okay.
I tied them, threw it in the garbage. Well, the next morning I got up, I'm hungry. I went back in the garbage,
Okay.
got the food out, started eating it,
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, you have stooped to the garbage can, golly. But it was tied up,
Yeah.
I
Oh, it was
smelled
tied up. Okay.
I tied it up,
Okay.
I smelled it. It
Okay.
smelled good. I'm hungry. I got to go to this conference.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord, you done got me up here. But I'm eating out the garbage, So I done made up my mind. I'm gonna drink their free coffee, drink their water, and if I missed a meal, I wasn't like you was gonna tell it, So I'm gonna do all that. And when I got downstairs, the lady came and tapped me on my shoulder. She said, "Hey, Donna, sign this." And I said, "What am I signing?" And she said, "Oh, this is your per diem for being up here. $250 for your eating and everything. So this is your card," and it was $250 on that. And I'm like, God, you got me eating out the garbage can, and I had $250 downstairs.
Yeah. You just didn't know.
I didn't know, but He was taking
Yeah.
care of me. So
Uh-huh.
when you listen to God, when you listen to Him, when you take time out and you be quiet in your silence, you hear Him. He'll lead and guide you. And I got this one more story. I had to go out of town. I never went out of town before, but I seen this online at night. It was about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I called the lady, and she was in Wilmington, North Carolina. I looked at it. It was going to be 9 hours. I had never drove out of town by myself before, ever. And I just had this, I had to go. Some just said, you got to go there. You got to go. And I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to go. The night before, I had all kind of bad dreams that I was going to be on the road by myself and all this here stuff. So Keegan was like, Mama, don't go. Don't go. I said, I don't know why, but I got to go. So I got on the road. It took 9 hours to get there. I left at 5 that morning. At 10 o'clock that night, I was still driving because I got lost.
Okay.
I got lost up in the mountains and everything. And of course, I was on that dark road with nothing but the trucks, phone didn't work. And I'm like, well, so in my mind, God was just taking me away from the kids to kill me. He didn't want to kill me there. That's what I'm actually thinking, But when I got there, it was after 11 o'clock. That night. The next morning when I woke up, some told me, said, go talk. I was downstairs sitting by myself, and I'm like, Lord, why did you want me here? Some said, go talk to this lady. It was a white lady, and I was like, I'm not going to talk to her. But of course, I was up. Next thing I know, I'm standing behind her, and she just looked up at me, and she was like, can I help you? And I was like, how you doing? And I'm like, why am I talking to her? And then she looked back up at me, and then she was like, you want to take a seat? Because I'm standing behind her while she eating. And she's like, what's your story? Why you here? And I told her why. I just came down. She said, do you have a story? I said, yeah, I got a child, whatever. And she put her fork down, and she said, I've been writing a book for missing for 2 years, but my agent keep telling me. She said, let me introduce myself. I'm the only female scientist or something in Canada. She said, and I'm writing a book about missing. And the reason why I didn't finish that book, because your story had to be in there. That's why I had to be here. They just brought me in for Canada to speak. One thing. Next thing, when they found out I was down there, the whole media came out. Filming me and everything. Okay. And then when I got ready to go, I didn't have no money. None whatsoever. So I'm going to get on that road early. So I can get home and not get lost. when I got in the car, they came. One guy came back out and said, "Donna, come back in. They want to see you." I went back in. They took up some money from me. He's like, "We took up." They just gave me a hat full of money, 20s and all. And I'm like, "Why y'all giving me this money?" Because it was all law enforcement in there.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Why y'all giving me this money? We just wanted to make sure if you get lost, get you a hotel."
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "I'm not gonna get lost. I'm gonna pay my bill this month." This is what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Driving that night, here come a rain, here come a bad storm. I got lost. I'm
Mm.
up in the mountains. I
Mm-hmm.
can't find the highway. I'm crying. I'm like, Lord, I don't know why,
Mm-hmm.
all this here stuff. But I got the money right there. I ain't thinking about the money now. I'm scared. I'm crying. I'm scared. And there go a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I
And he
go to the
already had
hotel.
provided.
He had already provided.
Mm-hmm.
But I was obedient.
Mm-hmm.
So even though my stuff was, I was scared to go. I didn't want to drive that time. That I didn't know how to drive. I never drove by myself. Even though I was scared to go, but he told me to go. I
Mm-hmm.
know it was him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "You go, go." And I did. I got lost and everything, and I'm still talking to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he provided there. He provided, and those relationships that I built there has taken me some places.
Don't you
You
see?
know what I'm saying?
Don't you see?
We just gotta trust him.
And so that the faith has
Yeah.
been increased through your process of
Mhm.
many things, but part of your journey was homelessness,
Yeah.
and through homelessness, your faith was increased,
Definitely.
and and
That's when
and
I got to know God.
and part of the way faith is increased is faith comes by hearing, and also faith without works is dead, and so you've had to exercise your faith, and through exercise, it's gotten a little stronger.
Yeah.
and uh, and so to close, um, what advice would you give somebody going through?
If you're going through anything, you just got to believe that regardless of what you see, what you feel, what it's looking like, you got to look beyond that. And I know that that's hard to do
Mm-hmm.
when you're in that dark place. But if you can find a way to look beyond that and know that God got you and
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to be all right,
Mm-hmm.
either way, however it go, he going to be right there with you and you going to be all right. And just learn how to trust that process. Because I think what happens with us, we want to fix it and maneuver and lead and guide God. That's the way we think that it should go for it to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just trusting that it's gonna be all right, and just listen. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
get silent and hear God. You just got get silent and talk to God. Just
Yeah.
get silent. In your silence, you know, he'll hear you.
Well,
You'll hear him.
I think of the scripture again, Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not to your own understanding.
In
In
all thy
all of
ways,
your ways, acknowledge
acknowledge him.
Him, and He will
Amen.
direct your path,
Amen.
even through the mountains. And like
Amen.
one writer said, yea, though I go through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they
Amen.
comfort me.
That's
And
true.
so we
And
pray.
even with that, when I was going through the mountains, I was looking for 23
Uh-huh.
for Highway 23,
Uh-huh.
and I couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next morning at the hotel, I asked the guy, I said, I've been looking for 23. He said, oh, it's right there. I said, no. He said, no, they changed it to 21. The highway was right there all the time,
Uh-huh.
but they had just changed it. So to me, that was just God taking care of me and not being on that highway
Yeah.
with all that storm and everything, because it
Yeah.
was like a tornado out there, and I'm still
Yeah.
trying to find my way home,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And you needed to go to the hotel
Yeah.
and take some rest and not take that money back for bill money. You need God knew what you needed. And so God
Right.
is a great provider.
Yes, he
Even
is.
in bad times,
Even in bad
God is
times.
able. And so we appreciate our audience being with us, and we appreciate you
Mm-hmm.
sharing your story and
Mm-hmm.
sharing a part of your life, that uncomfortable part.
Yeah.
Sometimes people like to share just the beautiful parts,
Mm.
but sometimes the uh, beauty comes out of the ashes,
That's
out
true.
of the bad things. There comes this good thing out of that bad part of life. And so, thank you for sharing your story of how you have faith even in the midst of homelessness.
Well, it's our tribulations that build us, that matures us, that give us character. It's not the good times.
Yeah.
It's the bad times to make us who we are and how we get through them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we invite our audience to come back to the next Growing in Grace podcast, and may God bless you. Until next time is our prayer. Come on back.